At dawn, traders gather near the northern road as soldiers watch the busy frontier life begin. Smoke rises from cook fires while farmers unload carts beneath the looming stone wall. Children weave between merchants as armored guards patrol in measured silence. This was not a silent border, but a living edge of Roman order and presence. Hadrian's wall stood not to block the world, but to observe it daily. Built across Britannia, it stretched from River Tyne to distant Solway waters. Stone upon stone formed a continuous signal of imperial control. Nearly 20 feet high, its walkway allowed watchful eyes to scan horizons. Crenellated parapets framed the sky, where sentries stood against wind and rain. Gates appeared every Roman mile, structured points of controlled movement. Between them rose turrets, small towers placed with calculated precision. 2 soldiers manned each height, scanning hills and tracking distant figures. The wall did not prevent crossing, it made crossing visible. Movement passed through authority, measured and recorded without drama. Most days unfolded without battle or alarm. Patrols rotated, reports filed, routines reinforced the rhythm of control. Anyone approaching saw an unbroken declaration of Roman permanence. The structure communicated power long before a word was spoken. Presence itself became deterrence across the rolling northern land. This frontier functioned not as a barrier, but as a system of watching.
If you want to discover more real stories like this, dark, hidden, and rooted in history, make sure you subscribe to this channel now, because what comes next is even more shocking. And one more thing, wherever you are watching from right now, write your country's name in the comments. I want to know how far these stories are reaching around the world. Don't forget, subscribe, comment your country, and stay with us.
Behind the stone barrier stretched another line few travelers noticed at first glance. A massive earthwork ran parallel, ditch and banks carved with intention. This was the vallum, marking a restricted military zone within Rome's frontier. Crossing into this space required authority, even for Roman citizens. Control began not at the wall's face, but in the land behind it. Soldiers guarded passages through the earthwork with disciplined caution. Civilians approached carefully, aware of boundaries drawn in soil and stone. The frontier was layered, structured, and deliberately organized. Order extended beyond visibility into administration and regulation. Long before the wall rose, Rome shaped this landscape with roads. Governors like Agricola pushed northward, securing territory. The Staingate Road connected forts long before stone defined the line. Supply wagons rolled along it, carrying grain, iron, and tools. Roman engineers cut straight routes through uneven terrain. Their roads imposed structure on uncertain ground. The wall formalized a frontier already functioning in practice. Forts stood as anchors along the pre-existing supply network. Power depended not on height alone, but on steady provision. Without grain, equipment, and rotation, the system would falter. The frontier endured because logistics flowed without interruption.
Vindolanda thrived just south of the wall, where soldiers and families lived together. Timber buildings rose along narrow lanes, smoke curling from small hearths. Traders sold cloth and pottery, while children played between wooden homes. Inked tablets preserved messages of birthdays, beer requests, and daily complaints. Soldiers were people too, raising families, buying supplies, attending local markets. Life continued under the watchful eyes of the frontier, routine shaped by walls. Forts were practical, small garrisons, granaries, barracks, nothing extravagant. Every mile, a mile castle allowed controlled passage through the stone boundary. Families passed, messengers delivered letters, traders offered wares under supervision. Soldiers manned turrets every third of a mile, observing hills and approaching travelers. Routine dominated the frontier, patrols, reports, inspections, day after day. Most hours were ordinary, yet observation made them extraordinary in control. Children learned boundaries early, playing in sightlines of Roman vigilance. Tavern and workshop life carried on with measured order, hum of daily labor. Romans living here were a mix of auxiliaries from distant provinces. Discipline enforced by rank,
loyalty maintained by habit, life embedded in system. Every structure served a purpose: movement, storage, defense, administration. The frontier was human at its core, not a stone boundary alone. Daily acts of living, eating, repairing, trading formed the heartbeat of the wall. Observation was routine, power was silent, control visible without battle.
Housestead's fort rose directly on the wall, housing 800 men in standard Roman layout. Barracks, granaries, hospital, headquarters formed a precise, functional military town. Auxiliary infantry from distant provinces served here, disciplined under routine. Soldiers rotated duties, drills conducted daily, reporting ensured control without conflict. Cavalry forts like Chester sat on rivers, enabling rapid response and patrol beyond the wall. Bridges carried wall continuity across rivers, turning water into controlled passages. The system relied on mobility, not pitched battle, to enforce treaties and deterrence. Not every fort was identical, but each fit into a repeating pattern of vigilance. Observation remained the strongest weapon, omnipresent and silent. Patrols could cover wide distances, gates filtered civilians, soldiers in short order. Rivers ended the stone line, not because ambition ceased, but natural boundaries prevailed. Naval and river patrols extended Rome's vision into water, monitoring traffic quietly. Coastal forts, partially eroded today, held strategic positions along the western edge. Smaller fortlets created a chain of control along shores, reinforcing perimeter. The frontier worked as a system, each element connected to the others. Authority was present at every crossing, every elevation, every mile of stone. Soldiers maintained structure through repetition, routines embedding power silently. Night watch continued, torches illuminating parapets, shadows moving across valleys. Life inside forts was organized, purpose-driven, balancing labor, discipline, and rest. The frontier endured because human vigilance sustained it more than stone or earth.
Soldiers sought solace in Mithraea, small subterranean temples of ritual and meaning. Dark interiors held torchlight, hierarchies, and initiation ceremonies for the faithful. Above ground, stone walls and forts in short order. Below, spiritual practice persisted. Beyond the wall, tribes continued daily life, trading, negotiating, and sometimes fighting. The frontier was not a barrier to civilization, but a choice of control and observation. Markets, craftwork, and seasonal festivals carried on outside Roman authority. Walls were a statement of presence, not of impenetrable force. 20 years after completion, Rome pushed northward with the Antonine frontier. Turf constructions lasted less than a generation, demonstrating strategic flexibility. Retreat back to Hadrian's wall confirmed the original system's durability. Soldiers were auxiliaries from distant lands, not citizens of Rome itself. They served decades, earned citizenship, and settled in the landscape they managed. Families grew, children were raised, and local economies intertwined with Roman order. Stone quarried for later churches and roads preserved fragments of the frontier. The wall's legacy endures in routine, systems, and human vigilance rather than battle. Observation, patrol, logistics, and supply networks define power more than walls. Romans taught through structure, order, and daily presence rather than constant fighting. What survives invites reflection on how control, visibility, and routine intersected. People endured, moved, watched, and waited. The frontier worked because humans maintained it. Hadrian's Wall was not a barrier, but a frontier, a system, and a lasting testament of empire.